In 1999, Morpheus offered Neo a choice between a red pill and a blue pill. In 2018, this country fractured between red and blue. In 2022, I'm here to tell you that if you really want the truth, more voters are neither red or blue. Yet, they have no representation, no choice, and no options. They have to choose between candidates chosen by the red people or the blue people. I'm David Esrati, and I'm running for Congress as an American, as in red, white, and blue. I'm a veteran, an activist, and a small businessman. I'm asking you to join me in reminding the professional politicians in Congress who their bosses are. I support ranked choice voting, campaign finance reform, and a verified voter information system, all so we can stop having the best politicians money can buy. It's time to elect a veteran who will work for you, no matter what color they want to label you. Please go to electesrati.com and learn more. I'm David Esrati, and I approve this message. Jurassic Park, you thought those little baby dinosaurs were cute until they turned into out-of-control carnivores. That's sort of what happens to government when we elect people based on very expensive advertising campaigns and propaganda. I'm David Esrati. I'm a veteran and a small businessman running for Congress. You don't want professional ad people and pollsters to sway your vote. All those hot-button issues like gun control, abortion, borders are all politicized to stop you from voting rationally. And thinking rationally seems to be in short supply these days. Most Americans have been voting against their own best self-interest for a long time because we've allowed money to buy our leaders. 1 million Americans died in the last 2 years because our leaders couldn't lead. It wasn't that hard. Mask, distance, test, and then vaccinate. In an instant, we had billions to spend on healthcare for COVID, when for years we've been told we can't provide healthcare for everyone equally in this country. That's an unintended consequence of the pandemic. If you think about it, our government can pretty much do whatever it wants, or what the people who buy our politicians tell our leaders to do. We also had a ton of money to prop up businesses. The next thing you know, it turns out that a living wage was not only possible, but necessary. As a small businessman who won't sell you out to corporate interests and lobbyists, I can tell you that it's time to fully understand the consequences of companies like Amazon, Facebook, and Google and their effect on small business, and to remind you that small business is the #1 creator of jobs in this country. So this next election, don't trust this ad or any other political ad. Do your homework and think before you vote. It's time to put this ad man in Congress because I know that the best advertising is based on the truth, not the size of the budget or payola. Or you can just vote based on who has the money to buy their way into Congress and live with the consequences. I'm David Esrati, and I approve this message. Well, happy Monday. I'm David Esrati. I'm running for Congress against Mike Turner. My district is OH-10. It's been changed this year to no longer include parts of Fayette County, but to include parts of Clark County. I spent the weekend out putting up big signs. Hope you've seen some of them. And having my pancake breakfast where everybody said I make amazing pancakes. If you missed it, too bad. Thanks to all that showed up. So, big news was Friday morning. A guy named David DePop, 42 years old, was carrying a roll of tape, white rope, a second hammer, a pair of rubber and cloth gloves, and zip ties, screaming, "Where's Nancy?" as he broke into Nancy Pelosi's house and attacked her husband. Today, federal prosecutors charged him, accusing him of breaking into the house, with attempting to kidnap Mrs. Pelosi, and with assaulting a relative of a federal official. Now, Nancy didn't get caught, Nancy has a security detail she was in D.C. at the time. But over the last year and a half, threats, actually since January 6th, threats on lawmakers have skyrocketed, and some congressmen, congresswomen have spent a lot of money, $400,000 for Cori Bush, on personal protection due to the threats of violence against members of Congress. They're taking the money out of campaign funds, which, seriously, we got to buy our politicians and we got to pay to keep them protected. Something seems really wrong here. Now, this isn't the first time, things like this have happened. In fact, I did a little research and learned a lot about how many times people have been shot, people have been attacked in Congress. And I was really surprised to find out in 1954 there was a shooting in the Capitol in the House of Representatives by some 4 Puerto Rican nationalists on March 1st, 1954. And they wanted independence from U.S. rule. They fired 30 rounds from semi-automatic pistols from the Ladies' Gallery, which is a balcony for visitors of the House of Representatives. One of them claims to have shot into the roof. Another one claims his gun jammed, but one of them says, I did most of it. And they wounded five members of Congress. Now, that was something that was before my time. I'm sure my parents knew about it, but I don't remember reading about it in the history books. 13 members of Congress have been wounded while in office, and 6 were Republicans, 5 were Democrats, and 1 member each from the anti-Jacksonian and the Whig parties. 1 was a woman and 4 were senators, but the biggest were the 5 that were wounded during the 54 shooting. There have been 15 congressmen killed in office. All were male, 10 were Democrats, 4 were Republicans, 1 was a Democratic Republican. Now, 4 of them were stupid and died in a duel. A total of 10 died from gunshot wounds. Now, considering, how many congressmen we've had over the time, I guess that's kind of a low percentage. We've had quite a few threats of late, including the January 6th attacks. But let's talk about things that we've all heard about. There have been 4 presidents killed. We all know about Lincoln and JFK, but you probably don't know as much about Garfield or McKinley. I remember watching Ronald Reagan get shot and wounded, and I didn't know anything about Theodore Roosevelt being shot. But when Garfield was shot, it was 4 months after taking office, and for the next 11 weeks, he endured medical malpractice before dying of complications caused by infections contracted by the doctor's relentless probing of his wound with unsterilized fingers and instruments. Painful way to die in 79 days after being shot. Garfield, the assassin, was immediately arrested. The trial lasted from November 14th, 1881 to January 25th, 1882. Found guilty and sentenced to death. His appeal was rejected, and he was executed by hanging on June 30th. Okay? 2 days before the first anniversary of the shooting. Show me somebody who is found guilty of a death and assigned the death penalty that was dealt with in less than 20 years anymore. Maybe that's one of the things we've screwed up here. Although I think death penalty should only be used where it's absolutely clear who did it. And in this case, it was. McKinley, he got shot twice, and one of them went into his stomach, and he got gangrene and died. And after McKinley got shot is when the Secret Service began, which was basically in 1901. Now, there are laws on the books that talk about the protection of a member of a federal official's family, and they put those enacted those in 1984. Apparently, then they were afraid, or it was after what happened to Reagan. So we then have more clauses added after 1996, extending it now to all federal employees, branches, departments, and agencies, including active duty military personnel, are now protected by that same ordinance. That means that basically it's a federal offense to assault any of these people, or attack, or kidnap, or murder, and to threaten with intent to retaliate against such person on account of the performance of official duties. See Anti-Terrorism and Effective Death Penalty Act of 1996. So, politicians have been getting more and more nervous over the last 50 years. The question becomes, who will run for office if this becomes the norm? I know a lot of people who won't even think about it. They don't want to be in the spotlight. They don't want to have their lives examined. The threat of death, that wasn't really in the picture. And I see I have a comment from Jennifer. Yes, I'll see that, and we'll talk about that hopefully towards the end. Thank you. So, again, it's getting harder and harder to find people who will run for office. You know, why would you want to subject yourself to this? Why would you want to get involved? Why would you want to do all this for a job that lasts 2 years when you're talking about Congress, and you have to run again, making it basically a eternal fundraising effort, which is why Turner has 27 billionaires backing him. I don't think this system is going to be long for our country if we don't figure out a way to fix it. First off, there's way too much money involved in this. I mean, the job pays $178,000. That's okay. But it costs $1 million to run? That's not okay. At some point, I think we need to just start paying for the whole process and take the money of the donors out of it. But that's something different. The question really is why am I doing this at this point? And what do I see as the real ability to make a change if I got elected? The first reason was January 6th scared the living daylights out of me. Should have scared the living daylights out of you. To watch the hordes of people, running over police barricades and screaming, "Where's Nancy?" just like the guy who broke into her house. That's a problem. We cannot live in a country ruled by fear of assault and attack. So, there were other people running, declared people running when I took out my petitions, one of whom I wasn't sure he would actually get his name on the ballot. The other one was somebody I'd never heard of. The third one appeared at the last minute and was somebody I knew of but never really made a public attempt at doing anything, and he came in second. I am in a position where I feel pretty okay with running and risking things. I don't have a wife. I don't have a child. Nobody's going to threaten anybody, and hold sway over me. I run my own business. I've been threatened by Mike Turner since he had me arrested in 1997, 6, 7, whenever that was. People said, we can't do business with you because Turner's a vindictive asshole. So that hasn't changed. It's not going to change after this, anything else. I honestly don't know what I would do if I did get elected. I have responsibilities to others, the veteran I take care of. I have a dog. I have my 2 Airbnbs. I have my business, my employees. A lot of changes would have to take place. I'll figure that out when I get to them. I mean, everything is solvable. That's not the issue. However, it will be a massive change to my life, and it will be interesting to see what happens. Of course, most people will tell you the chances of me getting elected are slim and none, and Slim's out of town because I don't have the support of the party. I don't have, $1 million to spend. And, who I am, quote unquote. However, who I am is what makes me willing to stand up for you. I swore an oath when I enlisted. I am not afraid of anybody. When I ran for mayor the very first time at the same time as Mike Turner, I had my windows shut out 2 nights in a row at my office. I've been physically attacked by a union leader. I've had people say all kinds of horrible things about me, and it really just reminds me that somebody has to stand up as a voice of truth and reason and take these people on. Our democracy is at risk this election. It is really a scary prospect if women lose the right to choose permanently, if we have some of these states' rights things rammed down our throats. We've already seen the reaction to the Oregon district shooting where, and to do something about it, Mike DeWine made it easier to get guns and to carry them concealed, and even is talking about arming teachers. This is absurdist. This is not sane, rational people talking. And that's part of the problem. I've been real interested in the conversation between Jim Duffy and his opponent in the 71st, which is part of Springfield, part of Greene, it's a really screwed up district. His opponent is a total idiot. Duffy, on the other hand, is a doctor, a pediatrician, somebody who knows what he's talking about when he's talking about choice, when he's talking about a woman's right and the medical conditions that are needed for an abortion. In fact, there are now questions in medical schools. How do they teach doctors? In some states, it's illegal to teach the doctors how to do an abortion, yet it's required as part of their accreditation with the AMA. So what do you do? These Republicans haven't thought it through. They haven't figured it out. They're just knee-jerk pulling strings saying, oh, but the babies. They don't care about the babies. If they did, we'd have better foster care programs in this country. We'd have universal health care in this program. We'd have prenatal support. Getting pregnant wouldn't cost as much. I mean, if they cared about the babies, we'd have child care for all workers, period. This is done in every other country but here. They don't care about babies. They care about getting elected and bringing their religion into politics. Which, by the way, I got something in the mail today. I'll have to share it tomorrow because they were hilarious. Somebody's mocking. They have had a whole series of bumper stickers and mocking the religion in politics and some other things. But it really comes down to, do you want to elect Democrats or do you want to elect fascists? Because that's what it's come down to. They are talking about overthrowing our government. They're talking about our elections not being fair and not trusting them. They're not accepting of things. They're praying to a false messiah, Donald Trump, thinking he's going to, quote, make America great again, when all he did was cut taxes for the ultra wealthy and screw the working class even more. And he also probably was the reason that there's a war in Ukraine, due to some of his private meetings with his best friend and most trusted confidant, Vladimir Putin. I don't know where to start. If I only get elected for 2 years and then I'm out and somebody has to run again, beats me the next time, even if it's Turner, at least we'll have sent a message that you don't just get carte blanche and automatic re-election. I have never, ever lied to anybody. I have been honest, forthcoming. I believe in transparency, open, honest government. That's why I do these live stream town halls, so I can answer your questions. I plan on doing them every day when I'm in Congress, so that you know that you have a congressman that you can access and you can listen to. That alone should be a good reason to give me a vote over somebody who hasn't had a town hall in 20 years. So, what do we do to stop the threats? How do we bring this rampant, atrocious behavior into check? I believe part of it is we have to model better behavior in Congress, where we don't sit there and just point fingers like I just was without substance. You have to prove it. You actually have to say what happened, how it was affected. I can tell you this. We botched more things because we've been sitting there playing red-blue games than we fixed. Our COVID response was horrific. We had Americans dying left and right because we refused to work together to solve the problem. Our approach to the school shootings across this nation and mass shootings has been horrific. We've allowed a very small percentage of people, even though we have a huge number of guns in this country, we have allowed a small percentage of people to tell us that this is somehow okay, because it's not. You want to go and have an assault rifle, a weapon of war, a semi-automatic weapon, a weapon of war. You better be ready to be in a militia, and you better be in uniform, and you better do all the things that I had to do in order to carry those weapons. Otherwise, you don't need them. And yes, I know Paul Pelosi was attacked with a hammer. Okay, and we're not going to ban hammers, so that's not going to happen. But look, I see flags out there that say F-word Biden hanging out, and people are driving by and their kids see this and say, Mommy, Daddy, what's that? That's somebody disrespecting the President of the United States who was duly elected. At some point, you know, you get those constitutional protections for being an American. And disrespecting the president is not part of the package. Trump should have been impeached early on. And Hunter Biden's laptop and all that, sure. Let's throw them all out. As I've said, if you're over 70 in Congress or in judicial seat, it's time to go. We need to stop letting these geriatric leaders run our country. We need younger people. We need brighter minds. We need people who care about our country's future, the environment, solving our problems instead of causing more. Anyway, I don't have all the answers, but I will certainly ask you for answers. And I would love to hear what your responses should be to people who disrespect our politicians, our leaders, our communities, who don't understand that when you're flying one of these Blue Lives Matter flags, you're disrespecting our flag. That's not in the flag code. It's not okay to wear the flag as a bikini or anything else. You're not being patriotic. We don't know what being patriotic means. We claim to be Americans, but we sure act crappy to each other. All right. Ran over for today. I don't see any other questions. I do have something's going on in Greene County where some ballots that were mailed didn't make it to the Board of Elections. Anytime you get an absentee ballot and you send it in, you are able to see if they have received it. If you want to go to your Board of Elections site, you should be able to see that it's been received. it will not have been counted, but the received part should be there. If it's not, call them, verify. This applies to every board of elections. If you are voting by mail and you've sent it in, do that. If you have voted by mail, if you request an absentee ballot and you don't trust the drop boxes, take it in during business hours and hand it directly to somebody. This is pretty simple. If, better yet, you just want to vote early, go vote in person at the boards of elections. They're open, I believe, 7 days a week, right up to Election Day. It stops, I believe, Monday. Monday you cannot vote early. Tuesday you can, but I could be wrong. If you haven't got your ballots to vote, you requested an absentee ballot. If you didn't get it, call the Board of Elections and ask. If they received your request, check to see if it was mailed. If not, get in there and vote. Okay, we don't want any confusion on Election Day. Well, I never got my ballot. Okay, it's up to you to do this. Frankly, I believe in voting on Election Day, come hell or high water. I always do it the day of the election because I never know what's going to come out at the last minute. Then, on top of it, I believe in voting by mail, but right now, a lot of people don't. Some states have been doing it for years, like Oregon, never had a problem. Washington State, never had a problem. Somehow, in Ohio, we can't get things right. So, if you don't have your ballot yet, it's time to start making some calls and get on it. Other than that, I still can use donations. If you have money and you want to donate, I still have great t-shirts for sale. Every time I send out an email blast, somebody wins a copy of the Shepherd Ferry signed prints. Yesterday, it was Lori Ward, former superintendent of Dayton Public Schools. Please, I'm giving away some pretty nice stuff with free framing from Custom Frame Service. Is make a donation of $5 if you've been watching any of this. We will be back every day this week. We will be back on Tuesday. I'm going to take on Monday next week, but on Tuesday, Election Day, I am not going to go live. Well, no, I'm going to go live and remind you all to vote because you'll still have a chance all the way up until, I believe, 7:30 is when the polls close. So let's get out. Let's get voting. Let's get our friends to vote. Let's make sure they're aware. We've got an app on our website, Reach.vote app, that can help you contact your friends who are voters and make sure they know about the issues and who to vote for. So sign up for it and get it done. If not, we'll see you tomorrow, and thank you.